Last month, I walked into my own office and saw my husband's hands on his secretary's waist. They thought the glass was tinted. They thought no one else worked late on Fridays. They thought the cameras were off the emails, erased the hotel bills buried in expense accounts, labeled team building. They were wrong. Because I was the one who set up the cameras. I was the one who ran HR and legal. I was the one who taught him everything he knows about power, then watched him waste it on a woman whose favorite game is playing victim for any man in a suit. He wasn't the first CEO to mistake loyalty for love, but I'll make sure he's the last to forget who signs the checks. This isn't a story about heartbreak. This is a story about what happens when the wife you betrayed happens to be the one person you can't afford to lose. Tuesday, 6:47 a.m. Boston. My day started like every other: 2 phones charging on the nightstand, 3 screens glowing in the kitchen, and my husband's suit jacket draped over a chair he never sat in anymore. I poured coffee, 1 cream, no sugar, just the way Logan liked it. Habit is a hell of a thing. He came downstairs humming. Not a real song, just noise, something to fill the silence between us. He didn't kiss me good morning. He didn't even meet my eyes. He just checked his phone, checked his tie, and muttered, "I'm running late. Board meeting at 8. I smiled. With Vanessa. His hand stilled, just for a second. "Don't start," he said. "She's my executive assistant, you know that." I took a slow sip of coffee. "Funny. I thought Amy was your assistant." He blinked. "Amy's on maternity leave. Right? Vanessa Lee, single mom, Ivy League resume. The only person who could book Logan's flights, bookend his jokes, and keep a straight face when he forgot his own anniversary." He grabbed his keys, barely looking at me. "I'll be home late. Dinner with investors." I watched the door close behind him, waited for the silence, then picked up my own phone and opened the Slack admin dashboard. All I needed was the log of who swiped into the company gym after hours. Vanessa's name every Wednesday night. Logan's too, same minute every time. I let myself laugh just once, not because it was funny, because it was so obvious only a man in love with himself would think I couldn't see it. The next week, I started arriving at the office before sunrise. Not to work, just to watch. Vanessa Lee always showed up early, high heels, too bright for the carpet hair too perfectly undone. She carried 2 coffees, always one with almond milk, one with cream. Logan started sitting in meetings with his phone face down, but he'd light up every time Vanessa laughed. She'd take notes, mouth got it, tap her nails on her iPad, and lean in a little too close when he pointed at her screen. No one else seemed to notice or pretended not to. I noticed everything. Thursday Feeve, 10 p.m. Vanessa stayed late again. I watched from the conference room as she knocked on Logan's door, glancing over her shoulder just once. The door closed. The lights dimmed. The security camera outside that office was still recording, because I made sure of it. I opened my laptop, checked the cloud drive, private, evidence, Logan Vanessa 2024, 8x10 files uploaded that month. I scrolled through the thumbnails, a hand on a wrist, a laugh held too long, a jacket slipping off a shoulder. I could have stormed and demanded explanations, but I didn't. Not yet. Because when you want someone to lose everything, you don't blow up the bridge. You wait until they're standing in the middle, then you let them set the fire themselves. Friday, 11:48 p.m. Logan came home late. Too late. He smelled like someone else's perfume, floral cheap, eager to be noticed. He dropped his keys in the dish, barely glanced at me, curled up on the couch. "You're up." I kept my voice level. "Late dinner." He shrugged eyes on the floor. With Vanessa. He looked at me. Really looked for the first time in months. Rachel, he said quietly, don't do this. I smiled. Do what? He shook his head, went upstairs without another word. I watched him go, listened for the sound of the shower, the water running too hot. Then I pulled up the NDA template on my laptop because I wasn't going to ask for the truth. I was going to make them sign it, then bury them with their own signatures. It was an accident. Vanessa left her laptop open during lunch. She always ate at her desk salad, no dressing, sparkling water lip gloss in one hand, while typing Slack messages with the other. But that day she rushed out for a doctor's appointment and forgot to lock her screen. Amy, back early from maternity leave, texted me from the next office over. You're gonna want to see this. I walked in like I owned the place, because I did. Vanessa's desktop was chaos sticky notes, desktop icons like confetti, a folder labeled Q3 budget and one labeled personal. I clicked personal, and there it was. Screenshots of hotel confirmations, dinner reservations under Logan's name, photos of Noah, her son, at Logan's apartment, one of them cooking together, a boomerang of Logan lifting the boy onto his shoulders captioned, "He's a natural." She saved it all. Maybe she was proud. Maybe she thought she'd marry him. Or maybe she knew what she was doing and thought I'd never find out. I copied the folder onto a drive, slid it into my purse, closed the laptop like nothing ever happened. Amy didn't ask questions. She just handed me her resignation letter. I'm not sticking around for whatever war this is, she said, but for what it's worth, I always knew he wasn't worth your time. She walked out. I stayed behind and smiled, because now I had what I needed. That night, Logan came home to find me in my office, lights low, drink in hand. I didn't look up. He hesitated. Everything okay, great, I said, clicking through folders, just catching up on some expense reports. He froze. I didn't even need to say her name. Let the guilt do the talking. Let him imagine what I knew and when I'd use it. Because the thing about secrets is they rot fast in the wrong hands. And mine were already wrapped around the matchbook. The photo haunted me. Noah may be 5 years old, grinning like the world had never lied to him. Same stubborn jawline as Logan, same lopsided smile, but it wasn't Logan's son. Not really. Because I ran a paternity check before I even left the office. Took the hair from his gym towel, had HR randomly collect Vanessa's DNA during a wellness drive. The results came in on a Monday. 99.998% match to Harold Brooks, Logan's father, not Logan. That night, I stared at the envelope unopened while Logan watched basketball in the living room like we weren't a breath away from collapse. He glanced over. You okay? I smiled. Never better. I went upstairs, locked the door, and opened the report. The irony was surgical. Logan thought he was having an affair, but really he'd been raising his own half-brother's child, calling him Buddy, letting him play with the dog. Vanessa hadn't just been hiding her past. She'd been sleeping with 2 generations of the same bloodline and pretending she didn't know which one left a mark. Tuesday morning, I requested a private meeting with our corporate legal team. By Wednesday, Vanessa received a letter from HR standard language, but heavy with intent. Concerns regarding workplace relationships, pending ethics review. Please take administrative leave effective immediately. Logan stormed into my office that afternoon, waving the notice like it was on fire. What the hell is this? I looked at him over my glasses. Policy enforcement. You can't just, "I'm the CEO," I said. "I can do whatever the company bylaws let me, and I wrote them." He blinked. "You're doing this because of her." "No," I said calmly. "I'm doing this because of you." He stared. "You built a castle on lies," I added. "Don't act shocked when the bricks start falling." That night, I called Harold Brooks, scheduled a private lunch. No threats, no drama. Just one sentence spoken with a smile as the waiter poured water. "You should get a lawyer, fast." His hand shook. Because secrets might stay buried for years, but I had just started digging. The quarterly board meeting started like any other. Mahogany table, espresso shots, suits trying not to sweat under pressure. Logan stood at the head of the room, tie just a little too tight, reciting slides like a man who hadn't noticed the walls shifting around him. And with the West Coast expansion, we're projecting a 12% growth in Q3. I raised my hand. He paused. "Rachel." I stood calm as glass. "I have a few amendments to that projection." The room quieted. I clicked the remote. The slide changed not to numbers, to Vanessa's hotel receipts, then screenshots of Slack conversations, then security cam stills her hand on his chest, his voice on audio whispering, "No one will find out she trusts me too much." Silence. Not even a throat clear. Logan's face went white, then red, then something ugly in between. "Rachel, I'm not done." I clicked again. This time, paternity results. Noah Lee, male, biological father Harold Brooks. Probability of paternity. %. Harold, seated 2 chairs down, jolted like someone had poured ice down his spine. I turned to him. "Would you like to explain how your grandson is actually your son? Someone choked on their coffee." Harold opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I looked around the table. These aren't just ethical violations, they're corporate liabilities, personal relationships disguised as professional loyalty, and deception that exposes this company to massive reputational risk. I paused just long enough to let it sink in. I moved to call an emergency vote of no confidence in Logan Brooks as CEO. Harold slammed the table. "You can't do that, I can," I said, "because I own 42% voting stock, and this company's ethics committee reports to me." The room stayed quiet for 3 beats, then hands began to raise, one by one. 7, 8, 9, majority. Logan didn't speak. He just stared at me like he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. Maybe he didn't, because I wasn't the wife who waited for an apology. I was the woman who built the kingdom and buried the king right in the middle of his own boardroom. 3 days after Logan was removed as CEO, I received a letter. Certified mail, gold-embossed stationery, a personal injury attorney's signature at the bottom. Vanessa Lee was suing me for emotional distress, wrongful termination, and professional sabotage. I read it once, then again just for the comedy. She claimed I'd created a hostile environment by exposing her private life, that I'd humiliated her publicly and destroyed her future prospects, as if she hadn't slept her way through 2 generations of the same family and kept receipts like a scrapbook. My lawyer, Sabrina, laughed out loud in the middle of our call. "Let me guess," she said, flipping through the packet. "She didn't think we'd countersue. I'm not suing her," I replied. "I'm ending her." She paused. "PR or legal, both." The next morning, I forwarded the lawsuit to our legal team and our new head of HR with a little folder attached, "Vanessa, conflicts.pdf contents, timeline of her affair with Logan." Her hiring date signed off directly by him. Emails showing unauthorized expense reimbursements. Copies of company policies she violated. Within 48 hours, her wrongful termination claim evaporated. I called in a favor with a journalist I knew at the Ledger, sent over a tip anonymously, of course. By the end of the week, the article dropped CEO scandal love triangle at the top, exposes hidden power struggles, and paternity lies photo of Logan looking dazed. Vanessa caught mid-scream in a blurry doorway. The comments were merciless. Sponsors pulled out. Her LinkedIn was locked by morning. She called me once. Blocked number. I picked up out of curiosity. "You ruined my life," she hissed. "No," I said, voice cool. "You ruined it the day you stepped into mine thinking I wouldn't see you coming." She started sobbing. I hung up. That night, I poured a drink and watched the article go viral. In the court of public opinion, there's no appeal process, and I didn't need a jury. I just needed her to remember I never had to touch her to destroy her. All I did was stop protecting her. It started with a text, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. Then came a call. Then two. Then he showed up at my building, three-piece suit, wrinkled hair, two flat eyes too hopeful. I watched from the security feed as he stood in the lobby, hands in his pockets like a teenager, waiting for detention to end. My assistant buzzed me. "He says it's urgent." I looked at the screen, then hit decline. The next day, a letter arrived. No law firm this time, no header, just Logan's handwriting, still neat after all these years. He poured it out like a confession. How he was lost, how things got confused, how Vanessa meant nothing and you were always the one. He wrote about the dinners we never finished, the trips we never took, the apologies he never made. He ended with, "If there's any version of you that still believes in us, I'm asking for one last chance." I folded the letter, lit a match, watched it curl to ash over my kitchen sink. Because here's the thing about men like Logan, they don't miss you. They miss the benefits, the clean house, the PR shield, the woman who knew every password, every allergy, every silence, but they never remember what it cost her to stay that long. That Friday, I attended a gala. Solo. The press caught wind. Photos hit Instagram. Headlines followed Rachel Evans, back in power, unapologetically alone. I wore red, not to seduce. To signal blood had already been spilled and I came out clean. Logan saw the photo. I know he did. He never called again. The truth, I didn't need his apology, because nothing he could say would ever touch the freedom I earned the day I stopped waiting for him to understand what he lost. A week after the scandal broke, Vanessa vanished from the city. No press conference, no apology tour, just a closed LinkedIn profile and a forwarded number that went straight to voicemail. Harold Brooks resigned from the board the same day, cited health reasons. Translation, he'd rather disappear than face investors, demanding to know why his name was on a DNA report linked to his former executive assistant, Logan. He clung to silence for a while, then tried to pivot, started a podcast on resilience and personal growth. The first episode opened with, "We all make mistakes, but some people build entire stories to punish you for them." I didn't listen to the rest, but the comments were brutal. "Didn't your wife build your company?" "Where's Vanessa now?" Bro talks like he didn't get fired on Zoom. The internet never forgets, especially when it smells blood. Meanwhile, I signed 3 new clients in 1 week. Investors wanted in. Competitors wanted to poach me. I raised salaries across the company and doubled maternity leave. My employees didn't just respect me now, they knew I didn't bluff. One morning, I passed Logan outside the old building. He looked dimmer, not just tired, smaller, like someone had finally shown him the full cost of being mediocre in a room full of powerful women. He tried to smile. Rach, you look good. I nodded. I know. He shoved his hands into his coat pocket. Do you really hate me? I looked him dead in the eye. Hate would mean I still think about you. Then I turned and walked into the building he once ruled, the one I'd now rebuilt without him around him and beyond him. You don't have to light the fire yourself. Sometimes you just leave the matchbox on the table and watch who reaches for it. Summer rolled in sharp and hot. My name was on 2 magazine covers by June. Not for the scandal, those headlines faded fast, but for the recovery, the pivot. The woman who didn't just survive the collapse of her marriage, she turned it into leverage. They called me the fixer in heels. I didn't correct them. I took meetings in glass towers now, lunched with women who wore power like perfume, quiet but permanent. One afternoon after a panel in Manhattan, a junior CEO asked me, "What do you do with the rage?" You know, after I smiled, build with it. She blinked. You don't forgive, I don't waste. Then I finished my drink and left her sitting in that silence. I ran into Amy again, the assistant who left before it all burned. She was at a conference managing a new startup now. We laughed over cocktails, over men who mistake silence for submission, over how much cleaner your desk gets when you stop setting it for 2. She raised her glass. To revenge, I shook my head. To reclamation. At home, I repainted everything. No more sterile whites or corporate gray, deep emerald walls, gold fixtures, velvet curtains that didn't ask for anyone's approval. I didn't look over my shoulder anymore. Not for Logan, not for Vanessa, not for the girl I used to be when I thought loyalty meant silence. One night, I opened an old box from our first apartment. Inside, a photo of me and Logan. Younger, softer, still in the phase where we thought ambition was enough to glue 2 lives together. I didn't cry. I didn't burn it. I just slipped it back inside, taped the lid shut, and wrote one word on the top in bold black ink, closed. You don't get closure from people. You get it from yourself when you decide you deserve a new ending. Fall arrived quiet golden and entirely mine. The leaves changed without asking permission, and for once I didn't feel the urge to hold anything together but myself. Logan emailed me on a Sunday. Subject line, just one last thing. He wanted to meet. No drama, he wrote. Just clarity. I stared at the screen. Clarity. As if there was anything left to clarify between us. He used to believe I'd always read his messages. He wasn't wrong, I just didn't always reply. This time I deleted it without opening, because the final act of healing isn't saying goodbye. It's realizing you don't have to. Vanessa reappeared on some dating app for divorcees. A screenshot landed in my inbox from a friend, former executive. Full-time mom, looking for real connection this time. I didn't laugh. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because I was too far ahead to care. My company launched its next product line that quarter. It broke our own sales record in 72 hours. When reporters asked what inspired the brand name Ashline, I just smiled. Something I left behind, I said, and walked away. I never remarried, never moved backward. Instead, I bought the building Logan once managed. Top floor, wraparound view, no shared closets. I turned his old corner office into my reading room, hung a single frame on the wall, a photo of me solo standing at the ribbon cutting, sharp suit, no apologies. Underneath it, I had a plaque engraved, "Built by the woman they underestimated." Because this was never a story about him, it was mine, and I ended it exactly how I wanted.